This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. Learn more at www.twindlefoundation.org.
Let's talk.
So many people stay hidden due to fear. Fear of judgment, shame, or even guilt. You are not alone on your journey. Girl, you are not alone. This is a safe place. A place to be heard, a place to be free, a place to be yourself. Bring your girlfriends and let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it. Today is going to be a great day because I get to catch up with my good friend Kelley and hear all about the expansion of her business. You know I love all things business and love seeing Black girl magic. I can't wait to hear what's going on. She has an amazing story. Hey, Kelley, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Oh, it's so good to see you and be on.
You as well. I'm so excited about our conversation.
Me too.
So why don't you tell everyone your name and what you do?
Yes, so I'm Kelley Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of Cursalve. We are an organic skincare company for children. We make organic diaper rash products, and we're expanding our line to full body.
Oh, now that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. I've been working.
Absolutely. So tell me how exactly did you get started? And of course, I already know this story, but for those who don't know you, this give you an opportunity to open up and share a little bit on how you got started.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I got started, it would be really 2016 when my daughter was born. She was a baby with very sensitive skin, and she had bouts with food intolerance that ultimately led to diaper rash. And because of the nature of her skin already being sensitive, I had a hard time finding really clean organic products that were also maximum strength to essentially beat the rash fast. And Cursalve was born. I decided to make 2 diapering products. One was a treatment paste with 40% non-nano zinc oxide, just really thick to get the job done fast. And then another was a prevention cream, which is a lighter formula for people who want to use a diapering product in between changes.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And so tell me, like, what was that process like for you? Like just starting, like, okay, so you're saying, okay, I need to come up with something, a solution for this problem. And then how did you move forward from there? Like the type of research that you did? Like, I just want you to share with people, especially for anyone that's looking to create some type of product for whatever reason, for whatever solution that they're trying to find. Just talk about your process a little bit.
Absolutely. So I knew that I wanted to create a line that was non-toxic. So the type of chemist or lab, so you can just Google, chemist or private label manufacturers, but I knew I wanted to make a unique formula. So I needed a chemist that cares about ingredients and did not want to work with synthetic or toxic ingredients. And so it just took some research. I did my Google searches, and I reached out to dozens of labs, and I asked for samples, I asked for meetings. And a lot of times there's some big labs that don't really want to meet with small businesses.
Yeah.
Only because, they say, okay, are you going to meet our minimums? For so many different reasons. And so it took me some time, but I was able to find a lab with the same fidelity as Cursalve. And then, we went from there. I got samples, and then we began to work up my own custom formula.
Yeah.
And it takes some time. So if you have an idea about a product and you think, okay, I'm going to find a lab and in a few months we'll be up and running. No, it takes several months of product development, product testing to really get to the point where you should be.
Which is so interesting because you learn a lot about this, like with big companies when they're pushing out new products, and you kind of see what that life cycle looks like. And then now you're talking a smaller company, like an individual, and you're still being able to, because if I was in the same position as you and I was trying to create a product, I don't think that I would have realized that Google would have been my friend. Yeah, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yeah. I don't think
Absolutely.
that I would have never, went that route. Well, maybe I probably would have, but I was so in awe when you first shared just being able to work with in the lab and with the chemist and going through that whole process. I was so blown away because it was something that I never heard before. Like so
Yeah, yeah. You know, a lot of people start making their products at home, but for diapering
right.
product with zinc oxide, that's something that I don't make at home.
Hmm.
So for a lot of people, the first step is making a product at home and then transitioning to a lab.
Hmm.
I just went straight there, and yeah, Google is your friend. You can find a ton of labs that have lower minimums to work with.
Okay, so then after you got your product finalized and it's exactly where you want it to be, like everything's perfect in your eyes, like okay, this is it. So then how did you get your product packaged and then start to get it out to the public?
Yes. So most labs and chemists, they carry their own packaging
Okay,
in-house.
that's good.
And if they don't, if you have a very specific brand aesthetic, you would need to find a brand manager or a creative company, and they essentially come up with your brand voice, they come up with your colors, they come up with your logo to really, they really streamline the look and feel of your entire brand. Your individual products as well, but the language that you use on your site, the coloring, all of those aspects. So you want to seek out a creative agency. There are some people who do branding themselves, but it's really great to have a streamlined look and feel. And so you will want to use a creative agency for that. And then additionally, again, Google, you can research different packaging manufacturers. So in the US, there are a ton of manufacturers that do use silicone as well as plastic packaging.
Uh-huh.
And you want to work hand in hand with your your chemist or your fulfillment team to ensure that your package is compatible with the ingredients that are in your product. So at the end of formulating, there is a process called stability testing. And that is when your chemist or your lab will ensure that, okay, the ingredients that are in your specific cream or lotion or oil, they won't erode your packaging. So if you had maybe a paper packaging, would it leak through? Does the packaging alter the texture or consistency of your product? So that stability testing is very critical because it will really determine is the packaging that you want, the aesthetic you want, compatible with the product you've created. So yeah, there are a ton of companies throughout the US. A lot of large brands go overseas. They're buying their packaging in Canada. They're buying it in China because the costs are a lot lower.
Yeah.
Now, since the pandemic, my costs on my jars for my diaper paste, they've increased significantly by about 30%.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's eats into your margin. But I get my jars in the US, and it's just an issue they've had with supply chain management. It takes approximately 4 to 6 months to even order and receive it. So the times have really changed. So 4 years ago, I would have said, look at a company, source out samples, they'll get them to you within a week. You'll be able to decide from a ton of different manufacturers, the type, the look and feel, and the texture. Do you want matte? Do you want something shinier? All of those things, but it takes a lot longer now because of supply chain issues.
Yeah. You know what? I was just thinking about that. Have you seen, due to the pandemic, and of course, the increase in cost, but have you seen an increase in your products, like more the sales, like selling more, or maybe just kind of selling less, or it's kind of stagnant?
Yeah. So you know what? We have seen an increase, and that's due, largely to around the beginning of the pandemic. People were shopping at home, and we have an Amazon store for Cursalve, and we have an e-commerce store. So people were seeking out products online opposed to going into stores. And then I am a Black owned and operated brand. So around the time of the pandemic, people were really starting to seek out Black owned products.
Yeah.
It was during the time of George Floyd and people really seeing, recognizing the injustice in this country that affects Black people broadly, and then also that Black businesses don't have equal shelf space in retail. That
Right.
Black businesses, in terms of receiving funding and sales, are not up to the same standard as our counterparts. So I think that all positively influenced the brand as well.
Well, that's a good thing. That's definitely a
Yeah,
good thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But my costs also increased. So my
Right.
bottom line, my margins did change just because shipping is a lot higher depending on the zone. So we're based on the East Coast. If I'm shipping to the West Coast, I mean the prices are it's just really high.
Yeah.
And customers,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Customers don't really want to absorb $6 and $7, shipping
Yeah.
increases. So
Because a lot of times, even when I buy things, I always go for who's going to give me free shipping. And because if I have to return it, then I'm gonna have to pay for it to go back. So it's
exactly.
almost like, especially when you're buying something online, because you don't really know what you're going to get, and is this going to work for me? That type of stuff. So I get it. I honestly, I don't want to pay for shipping either. But I think that, and I don't know if this was due to the pandemic or this was the holiday season, but I had a product that I was shipping, and when I took it to the post office to have the package weighed, it cost almost as much as the item. And I was just like, I can't
Yeah.
sell this, and I had an overflow of it. And so it was just, I just said, maybe I ought to just wait until a different season and take it back. And I was meaning to have it weighed again just to check and see if the price was still the same, because there were some other things that I shipped and I noticed that the price had decreased. So I'm thinking it was more of the pandemic more than,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And now the gas prices are higher, but you can try through your Shopify store or ShipStation,
Yeah.
you get discounts on shipping. So you can weigh your item and then upload the weight of the individual item and then your
Yeah.
packaging. And then you'll get lower ship. I mean, they may decrease your shipping rates by maybe 30-40%.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, because when you think about that, it was discouraging for me. I was more concerned of, I can't ask someone to pay this price because I don't want to pay it, so I have, that's my mindset. Like, if I don't want to pay it, I can't ask the people to pay that as well. So
Yeah, so you should really try to do it through a Shopify store or a ShipStation.
okay,
And I think
got
you'll
it.
see some discounts. Yep.
And so tell me about, okay, so I remember us talking, and I believe that your first store that you got your product in, was that Macy's?
No, Nordstrom.
Nordstrom, there we go. Oh
Yep,
yeah,
yep,
yeah,
yep.
Nordstrom. And so you know what? And actually, I've seen a lot more department stores or allowing people to partner with them and bringing it apart. And I think that is so amazing. I really do. I think that opens up the doors for us a lot. Because now people had to come up with different ways and, create a website and do this, saying small, but this is big, huge, when you could actually walk into the store and say, hey, there goes my product. Or you could tell your family and friends, hey, my product is now listed here, versus it just being online and people searching for it. But do you find that it was a lot more easier selling being in the department store or having to do it yourself? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think retail relationships are amazing because they get you in front of customers that may have never heard of you.
Yeah.
Or they're looking for something else and they see you on their site or in their store. But retail is expensive. And so the more I grow, the more I see, if you are in major retail, you split your profits. So
Yeah.
you give a major discount for the store to make money. So, having your own very strong direct to consumer pipeline, and sales is amazing. As well as, definitely being in retail stores, but you have to weigh the cost to ensure that you're profitable. But Nordstrom, and I hope to be in other retailers, it's a good opportunity for visibility, an additional stream of income from your business, for your business. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I was thinking, like, a lot of times people, like even like authors or people who have their own music line and they're independent versus like, it's the exact same way. You're probably going to make more money when you have more control over it. You might have to work a lot harder to get
Mhm.
yourself in front of more people versus someone just coming into the store, and it's a different type of clientele versus having to constantly market yourself and your product and push and push and push. It's a little bit different, but you may see more of a return when you're independent. Unless in the larger retail stores, like you're selling heavily in bulk, and then bam, you know what I mean. So I guess it's the pros and
Absolutely.
cons on both sides of
Oh,
it. Yeah,
absolutely. There are a ton of pros to being in retail. You just have to be ready for it.
yeah,
To make sure your margins are in line, to make sure that you have a nice budget for marketing and advertising, and you know, good mentorship too before you get into a store to understand similar brands experience and how
yeah.
you can have a good relationship with that retailer. That's very important.
You know what? I'm glad that you said mentorship. I want to talk about that a little bit because a lot of times people kind of go out on their own and really don't know, and they're kind of like learning as they go. And it's so
Mhm.
hard. It's now listen, it's really hard finding someone that is going to be willing to help you or sow into of someone to guide them into the right direction, because a lot of times, I'm just going to be honest, sometimes people just don't have time for you. They just don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people, I don't know. I don't want to say that they're afraid or jealous, but sometimes, people don't want to help because they don't want you to go, move past them, or, saying that type of stuff. So I just want you to kind of share, like, what was that like for you, like finding a mentor or finding the
Mhm.
right mentor? Because someone else might be out there and like, hey, you never know. I never thought about, trying to find a mentor or maybe some type of
Mhm.
coach that could help me through this process, because a lot of times people don't know. They're maybe working in the kitchen and putting these things together and not knowing how, or could take themselves to a certain point but don't know how to get themselves to that next level. Like they don't know how to get themselves into Nordstrom or
Mhm.
any department store. So yeah, just talk about that a little bit. Just share like what was your experience like finding a mentor and what you were
Yeah, so I
looking
don't
for.
know if I have formal mentor relationships. I will say other businesses that are ahead of me
Hmm.
that offer insight, guidance, and just support. So when I was starting my brand, I actually had a coach.
Hmm.
She's a business coach, a life coach, and she introduced me to a group called Hey Mama, and they were a group of entrepreneurial women, or just women that are looking for just collaboration,
Hmm.
that are and their moms. And so in that group was a listserv of women always swapping ideas on how to make their websites stronger, copywriting, digital marketing, so many different aspects of business. All of the women are very open, they were very kind, and so it was just simple emails. And then as I began to put out there within my own social network that, hey, I'm starting a business, just different friends would say, oh, I know someone else that's a small business owner, you all should connect. And so it
Hmm.
was very organic, and I've just sustained those relationships over time. And it's just a matter of sharing ideas, asking
Yeah.
questions of one another, sharing your experiences with vendors. All of that is important because you spend so much time and so much money not only getting your business off the ground, but running it, sustaining it, and then growing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you make decisions, you spend money maybe on contractors, on vendors that you shouldn't. So you want to get testimonials from people. You want to understand how a certain business works. And it's nothing, it is amazing to have an honest, real just feedback from someone that's in your social network or
Yeah.
someone that has been there before you. And so because of that experience, I'm always open to talking to people, whether they be, excuse me, 10 steps ahead of me, whether they've just launched, whether they're thinking about a business, because we all need support at every stage of the journey.
Yeah, I'm really big on on networking with people and just trying to find information. I always feel like someone's going to give me whatever I need, a little seed so I could go, to that next journey. It's always good people. And I know that, gosh, I remember when I was in college, and I remember one of my professors, she said that when she asked me what I was majoring in, and I said business, and she says, "Oh, you're going to have to network." And I was thinking to myself, networking. And listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is so funny. I was always afraid of that word. Every time I heard networking, I would cringe because at that age, like early 20s, I don't even think I was 20 years old at that time. Yeah, because I was 21 when I graduated. So this had to been about 18 or 19. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know people. I don't know how to network. There's that fear, of having to go out and talk to people, but I overcame that pretty quickly or whatever. But it was every time I heard the word networking, I would think like, how am I going to meet people? And then, but just luckily for me, I'm a regular social butterfly, so I don't mind. I don't mind talking to people, and I definitely don't mind asking for knowledge or wisdom or even help. And I think that that's big for anyone that's doing any type of business. That networking is key, and that you need to have like a sphere of influence or some people that you can connect with, and just saying that's in the business who may give you some insight on things that you don't know, or or help you not to make some mistakes that they've made. So yeah, that's definitely big.
Avoiding mistakes, avoiding wasting money is huge.
Yeah. The biggest part is avoiding. Well, no, I'm gonna say avoiding wasting money is definitely huge. Especially when you're starting off and you don't even know like the cost of things, and you know that you have to do this, and this, and then next thing you know, there's something else that comes along, and you want it to be not to say perfect, but you're launching. This is like your first baby. Anything that you're starting, this is your baby, and you're carrying it and you're nurturing. You want to give it the best. You want to make it, you want to make it like, and so, yeah. And so you want to make sure that you pour into it, but at the same time, like sometimes people have a dream, and that's the reason why a lot of dreams don't get fulfilled, because they don't have the finances for it. People have to take baby steps and kind of walk their way through it, and it might take them a longer time, so yeah, that is really tough, but you do want to avoid putting in. And I oh my goodness, I can't tell you, like I've invested in coaches over the years. Like I would always ask someone, "Hey, what do you think about this?" or something, and they would say, "Well, I'm trying this or whatever." And I realized the one person that I kept going to and asking about certain things, every single time I felt like I wasted money. And I was just like, yeah, this is, yes, very bad. Like, I mean, it's like, oh, try this coach and blah, blah, blah. And it was bad. It didn't work out for me. And then I even asked for another business tip on something else. And, now so sometimes you just can't follow people. Like, I guess you might want to check their success rate before you follow suit, because I said I had to be very careful about who I allowed to speak into my ear. But I mean, there's always the pros and cons. It may not have been my season, so maybe that's the reason why it didn't work. So you don't necessarily have to give up, but I'm still going to be a little bit more mindful of the advice that I take from people. Yeah, do a little bit more research.
And there's nothing wrong with doing a lot of research and taking your time. And sometimes, you'll meet business contacts or have opportunities, and you say, oh, I have to jump on it right away. I need to be in this course. I need to have this partnership. And it doesn't feel completely aligned, but you do it because it came off of a good referral, or it's very expensive, but you think it's going to take your business to the next level. Truly, everything that you need to take your business to the next level is within you. And at the appropriate time, you'll have the money and you'll have the connections. It's just, we want it so bad because we put so much time, energy, prayer, all of that into crafting a business or thinking about our future or our life. And we want it fast because it's a strong desire. But you're right. At the right time, it always comes together for you.
Yeah, I say this because I know that sometimes I could make impulsive decisions. And so I've come to a place like, sometimes, like for an example, I was looking to lease a building and or an office space. And well, first I wanted to buy a building. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I ought to crawl before I walk. So let's just back up and see how things go and wait till the expansion and then go into that mind frame. But I remember, I felt that pressure from the building owner of, this has to be done, this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I had to stop and pause and be like, you know what, hold a second. Everything is on God's terms, and that he would give provision for whatever it is. And so if it's for me, then it's for me, but I'm not going to allow someone to kind of try to play on your emotions and just think, make it feel like, oh, I have to do it right now. No, I don't have to do it right now. There's no sense of urgency, and whatever it is, God will open the right door. And so I just said, oh, I respectfully decline. So you have to think about that, because you have to think people will play on your emotion. That's going to happen a lot in business. You have to be so mindful, because there's no urgency. Like sometimes, when I'm doing business and I tell people, well, this happened or whatever, it's up to you. And I know that people sometimes drag their feet because they feel like others are playing on them, but sometimes it's not the case or whatever. And we all know better. We know what we need. We know what needs to get done, and we just have to allow God to work those things out. Don't panic and push yourself out there. And when it's not your time, because it's probably not going to work, because you can invest in something and then it flops. And then you're like, well, what happened? And what I'm saying? And I can't say, oh, it wasn't your season or it wasn't supposed to, but we do need to just trust God that it will happen when it is our time. Absolutely. For it to happen.
Yep. Yeah. That is the word. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now, recently we talked, and I think that we were talking about an expansion.
Yes. So I'm expanding my line. Yes. To include, I'm going to have a changing pad, a vegan leather changing pad for, diaper changes, so moms can carry it in their diaper bags. I'll also have bath and body products. So I'll have 2 body washes, just 2 different scents, bath oils, and a moisturizer.
Is this is a baby's line? Is that right? A baby's line?
Baby, yeah, for baby and children. Yep. So I use a lot of the products interchangeably, but they are catered towards, a nice lavender scent, night wash and things like that. They are very gentle and catering to children. So it has been a labor of love, going through the manufacturing process, getting them certified organic by USDA and NSF. So it has been the journey. Yes. But I'm hoping to launch them, by the fall. So right now, I'm getting my photography. So, after you go through all the product development, I already have a site that's very diaper rash specific. I have to, really expand the site to highlight all the complete bath and body collection.
Wow. So what was that process like for you? Like, how did you know what was next? What was next for you? Like, what made you say, okay, here's a need, I'm going to bring forth the solution, So how did you get to that point?
Yeah. So in terms of, as a parent, your children and their needs, their body care needs, their needs broadly, they change, they evolve as they get older. And so while I had solved the diapering issue, there were also, they take baths every day.
Yeah.
They need to be moisturized, they need to be cleansed. So thinking about the products that I wanted to use on them and the market need, I decided to evolve the line.
And what about the changing station? Because that's what I was really thinking about more so of, yeah.
Oh yeah, so you mean the changing pad?
Yeah, the changing pad.
It is. So I don't have a prototype in front of me because I will show you. But when I have it, I will for sure send you one. It's just a mat. So instead of it being plastic, it's much softer, like a leather. But you can wipe it off. It's vegan leather, so you can clean it with every change. It's easy to fold and put in your diaper bag, and it's comfortable for the baby. So something moms or dads can slip into their diaper bag or book bag, pop out when they're doing their changes.
Yeah,
makes it very easy. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot,
Yeah,
because you're
thank you.
making life a lot easier for parents, and I think that's the biggest part. Because being a parent is not easy. Now, I don't have any kids, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews, so I've changed a diaper or 50, before. So I kind of get it. I understand,
Yes,
and it's definitely a struggle. So I think that you're making the life of parents a lot easier, comfortable, I would say.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's my aim. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, but okay. So I have another question. So I know that okay. So wait a minute, because things could have changed over the years. So outside of this, you have another occupation. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, good.
Hmm.
So now I want to talk about being creative and balancing. So you're creating something on one side and then you're trying to balance a different career on the other
Hmm.
side. So and then at some point I'm sure that a part of this has to intertwine. So just
Hmm.
kind of want to talk about, what your career is, and then and then also how do you balance the both the two of these?
Yeah.
Because
So
you have
I'm
two
a,
big jobs. You have two big
yeah.
jobs.
Thank you. Well, the biggest is probably being a mom, right?
Yes.
Managing two little ones.
Hmm.
But yeah, so my background is law and public policy, and
Hmm.
so that still helps me to really fund the business and grow to
Yeah.
have a bigger product line, because everything that I make for the business I really reinvest. So balancing it all is a constant struggle. It is just constantly. The more organized that I am, writing out my list of everything I need to accomplish for the day, and even when I'm very tired, getting up just a little bit earlier to start my tasks for the day, to shoot off my emails, that really changes the game for me. Because if I'm waking up just in time to get the kids ready and then rushing off to blast off some emails for Cursalve and then, do my other policy work, it is just a lot. It's too much. So carving out that time a little bit early and being very, very detailed in my schedule. But I still tell you, there are days when I absolutely feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But I just have to push through it until I get to the point, which hopefully soon, where I'll be able to just manage the business full time.
Oh, that sounds good. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So, but how do you find I guess I want to say that, so I always feel like self-care is important. And so
Mhm.
how do you manage not to push yourself way too hard, or you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times for myself, I always set like a deadline for something. And I'm always creating a project. Like I'm a creator. So I'm always in creative mode. So I can finish one project and then start a different one right afterwards and start a different one right afterwards. And I know it sounds so crazy because people always say you should do one thing and then master it and then but if I feel like I have the time, like you know what I'm saying, there's always a peak season for
Mhm.
everything. And so I start one thing and then I submit it over just to see what happens. Then I might work on something else while I'm waiting to hear back on what's going on with this. And then when I'm done, I start on something different. But I feel
Mhm.
like I don't okay, so I don't have kids. And so it's different for me. So I could figure out, and of course I might take less sleep, trying to do everything that I need to do. And I know that that's tough because just like I'm always pushing myself to my limit, to my max. And what I found that now I'm in a space where if I'm tired, I'm going to just rest. Like I used to feel like everything needed to be perfect. You know what I'm saying? I'm a perfectionist,
Mhm.
and I was so afraid that if I mess up and people would judge me. You know what I'm saying? So that was a fear of mine, and now I'm just like, you know what? People make mistakes. I make mistakes, and so I don't have to be
Mhm.
perfect, and I don't care what people say. You know what I'm saying? People are going to criticize everything you do, so none of that
Everything,
matters.
every
None
time.
of
It
that
doesn't. It
matters.
doesn't matter at all. Yeah, you have to just make that decision in your mind. Like
Hmm.
when my mind and my body needs rest, or when I'm hitting a lot of roadblocks and a lot of tension because of a timeline that I've set.
Hmm. That you
Like
created for
so, for
yourself.
example, I wanted to have my line released this summer, but I found that I was rushing through the process. There's some
Mm.
hiccups with our certification, with our design. So it makes no sense for me to rush it and then it be incomplete, or I waste money having to
Yes.
rerun labels, or waste money, wanting to do the site over. So it's a lot easier for me to go with the flow and not work against it so that I can get things accomplished, and then think, with more time, I could just continue to focus on my diapering products and then put all of my energy into the complete bath and body. Because the more SKUs you have, the more shipping you'll do, just the more, time, more things you'll manage for the business. And so, just like you said, sometimes self-care is knowing when to slow down. For sure.
Yeah.
Because if you burn out emotionally and mentally, then you won't really accomplish the original objective anyways.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I remember just a couple of weeks ago, I found myself just crying out to God and saying, I'm exhausted, like I'm tired. But it wasn't more of, I mean, maybe I needed sleep, but that could have been a part of it. But it was just, putting so much energy into things and not seeing any fruits from my labor, and nothing was manifesting. And it's more of it just wasn't a season for it, And so it was just like, but when, because sometimes, we do get a little antsy because we have these expectations in our minds that we've created on our own. And so that was hard for me. And when I said I was tired, he definitely gave me rest. And then I saw this post by Pastor Joel Osteen, and he was saying that when God gives us rest, he's then able to fight our battles. And so yes, and so I mean, I'm telling you, like for a week I just like slept for like 10 hours a day. And I'm normally like a 3 to 5 hours a day.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that's all that I normally get. But I mean, he just okay, you need rest. And so, and then when I found, and that's when I became at peace, and I realized that everything, I know better, but in that moment, I guess I needed just to see that for myself, that it happens on God's timing, and that, saying you don't have to continue to push yourself to that, because whatever it is that God has for you, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
That is very true. That is very true. Well, I will stand on that because I have a lot of things that I want to happen, right?
Yes. Time and season for and season for everything. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And you know what else? And even for those challenging times, and I just want to say this because I know that a lot of times, even like, especially in entrepreneurship, like you're putting everything, like you're saying, one business is putting a bill for everything else. And you're like, okay, well, I'm pouring you know what? And sometimes it's that struggle, and it's hard. And because I use one business that takes care of everything else in my life too, all these projects that I'm working on and hoping that they produce something, that money is coming from somewhere, from the main source. And so, saying, and you're just hoping that something's going to happen so that, you reap some benefits from everything that you're sowing, and so I had to realize that those challenging times won't last forever. So whatever it is that you're up against, there's an expiration for everything. So those hard times has to go. Yeah.
It's true. That's very true.
That is something I always try to keep in mind, that there's an expiration for everything. So that season is coming.
Yeah. So when it is your season of winning, of harvest, like we have to really go full throttle, right?
Yeah.
And be appreciative, because like you said, there's a season, for it all.
You know what? I found myself, and I'm just walking into this point in my life, but one is that I had to learn to identify my seasons, because a lot of times, we put in this work and we expect an outcome. And so the outcome is coming, of course, but there's just a time for it to come. There's a time for, and I, what's so crazy, because I was looking at some flowers that I planted maybe 4 years ago, and the first year it blossomed. The second year they died, like the sun just scorched them, and I thought they were gone. And then the third year they came back, but there was no bud on there. There was no bud. The fourth year it came back and it expanded, like it multiplied. Yeah. And so sometimes we may not see anything going on, and sometimes we may think that things are dead, and then all of a sudden it's just like wow, what just happened? And I feel like that's how God operates in our lives, because, we putting in work and you're like, okay, God, what in the world? Like, okay, I've been doing this and this, and you know what I'm saying? And I've been having faith, and I've been sowing seeds, and and then, then we at that point where we want to give up, like, I'm tired of this, because I know I didn't say it a lot of times, that Lord, I'm tired. I'm tired, God. And so,
Really?
yeah, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, what I'm saying? I want to throw in the towel, and you hear people says, when you're in the middle of it, why would you go back? You know what I'm saying? Just keep going. And that's when I have to realize that, what I'm saying, in due season, you have to realize that there's an expiration date for everything, and there's going to be an expiration date for these trials and tribulations, and then there's going to be a time for manifestation. So yeah, we just
Yes.
have to keep plowing and stay in there, and just allow God to do whatever it is that he's going to do. But it also helps us in different ways, because we build character.
That's true.
You know
We
what I'm saying? We
absolutely
build
do.
character. We
So
we
much character has been built in the last few
Yes,
years.
we gain wisdom. We start to see ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We start to see our
Mhm.
identity, and then figure out who we are and who we are in Christ. Because of course now, more than ever, I'm 9 times out of 10 we standing on that word a little bit stronger. Yes, we're
Yes,
calling on God a lot more when it's hard.
absolutely.
So
You
yeah, it
said it.
does. Yeah, it does. It does changes everything. So I totally get it.
Hmm.
And I'm always looking forward to talk with entrepreneurs. I'm like, I have an obsession with business. I really do. And I've always had, because every person that starts a business, there's always this great story behind it. There's always a reason. And it's like, and I always love to hear that part, because it gives me hope. And especially when you see people that have very, very successful business. Because when I was younger, I would look and say, man, how did they do that? You know what I'm saying? It was just like, how did they create all that? You see the outcome, but or you see like something huge, but then we don't know what that process looks like. And I like to ask people
Yep.
about, what does that process look like? What was your mindset? Because I know that it's not easy. And for myself, just being in business, I know how hard it is for me. So I like to share my struggles, and I let people know, like, I try to be transparent and vulnerable, but I always like to hear other people's story too, because it gives me hope. It encourages me. It
Absolutely.
inspires me to move forward, and it inspires me to think outside of the box as well too, and to dream,
Yes.
to dream bigger.
To dream and try, because isn't it always interesting to hear, just like you said, how people get started, how
Hmm.
they identify the resource, and sometimes just continuing to knock on doors
Yes.
and see things out will get you the right connection and get you the right information. And you are so inspired. I remember we were texting back and forth, and you sent me
Hmm.
such a nice note. I mean, I am so excited that we met, happy that we met, and we've, stayed in touch, and we
Yeah.
get to see one another grow as businesswomen and
Yeah,
just as
absolutely.
entrepreneurs. So very grateful.
We get to spread that Black girl's magic. That's what it is. Yeah, absolutely. I'm
Exactly.
always for encouraging people and helping them however I can. But you know what? I had this conversation with a friend. I actually did an interview for a podcast, and I had a friend on, and we were just talking, because we're talking about the struggles and the challenges or whatever, because people see, these great things or whatever, but they have no idea what we endured, and what those seasons look like. And we were talking about that. And then we're just talking about, the people that helped us at our lowest point during those time, trying times.
Mhm.
And so we both just like kind of said, that we should normalize loving on each other. You know what I'm saying? Helping each other.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to know someone to get pour love into them. No one's actually doesn't everyone doesn't have to be a stranger. And that we have to sow into, because if I know what
Absolutely.
your struggle looks like, okay, so you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, and I know, like, yeah, I know this takes some work. I know what that grind looks like. And so it's okay to send an encouraging word. It's okay to sow a seed into someone when they're going through a hard time. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to love people, because that's what the world needs more of. Love, definitely.
Hmm. More
Definitely.
love. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
You said it right and best. you're doing it. Your show,
Well,
all
thank
of
you.
your endeavors, you're absolutely doing it. So I'm excited to see all the things. I know that you have businesses, what you want to see manifested in this year and in future years, and we'll be celebrating that hopefully in person at some point.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I think that at some point in my life, I'm not going to throw a huge party and invite everyone that I've met over the years and just, you know what I'm saying? And not a party for myself. The party's going to be for all of us. Like everything
Yeah.
that we've accomplished, you know what I'm saying? Just be like, we not like, oh, we made it, but thank God we made it through the storm. For thank God that we hung in there, like we didn't give up because our stories are it's gonna help somebody else. And I think that's the biggest part for me. There's so many people that's coming behind us and they're gonna need every bit of what we have to make it through. Every single bit of what we have to make it through. It's hard out there. It really
It
is.
is. It is. And
Yeah.
especially, I think about in my category too, because some people have said, why did you do baby? Baby is so competitive. A lot of the major brands have been here for 40, 50 years. And it's a generational knowledge. Grandma told mom to use it, mom told you.
Yeah.
It's just, but I still felt that there was the need and I was still willing to take the chance. I was still led to try.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I come up against a lot of competition, it's not an easy road being in this category, getting brand visibility, fundraising, but it's worth it. And you also show, like, I know that my daughter, who I made the line for, she's looking at me and she sees me put in the work and she sees the incremental growth. So I feel like she's empowered to go after her dreams and not stop at every sign of a challenge and to be
Yeah.
patient with the dreams. So that's the one positive thing that above all comes from it, the example that you set, for the people around you.
But
Which
here's
goes
the
back to what you
here's the thing. I feel like okay, so when I was saying that we should dream, we look at others' lives and we start to dream bigger, and a lot of times, and it just depends on how we grew up, because for me growing up, I didn't see a whole lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what I had access to in the world. Like, I grew up in a small space, but the world was a whole lot larger. And so you're not able when you don't see it happening around you, you don't think that this could be for you. You know what I mean? Like, so
Absolutely.
so if I've never seen a millionaire, or if I didn't know a millionaire, then I would probably think that, okay, well, I probably can't be a millionaire. But once you put yourself in that place and you start seeing like, oh, this person is a millionaire, or oh, this person has a business, you know what I'm saying? I'd like to have a business. I'd like to have that too. You don't know what's possible out there for you. And that's the biggest part, because we get to show people what's possible, those things that they weren't able to see, you know what I'm saying? And so that's the biggest part for me. Like just being able to show people that we can do anything. Anything. Yes. And these kids are looking up to that. Like even for my niece, I don't think that I would want her to fall into my path of, because I've always done business and she's always been there like a sidekick. And so for me, and I don't know if business is something that she would want to go into, but if she does, she knows what that life looks like, the ups, the downs, the work, the grind, the all-nighters, on the couch when she goes to bed and in the same spot when she wakes up to go to school, you know what I'm saying? Still working. Right. Yeah. So, she knows what that's like. And then she was like, I mean, even I've been to places where I've heard her like, not I don't want to say defending me, but I've heard her just like, oh, my auntie's this, and she's saying this stuff or whatever like that, because those are the things that she sees or whatever. And like if you're never able to see those things, or you don't see it in someone in your family, then you don't know what's out there for you. And I feel like we open doors for other people, just allowing them to have a peek in there or whatever. It gives them hope. It does. Yeah, I had this mentor, and he was a best-selling author, and I saw like he would always be up all times of night, like late in writing, like always producing back to back to back. Like I was just like, man, does he ever run out of ideas? And And I knew what the grind was like for him, selling books and just going to different places, every year, like not like on a tour or anything like that sometimes, but just putting himself out there and pushing his products or whatever. And so it was just like, man, that's so crazy for me, but I'd never seen that. I've never seen it done before. So then it made me understand what it takes to become that best-selling author, whatever like that. Of course, my trust is in God, because I know that he can do those things, but just being able to see that type of stuff and then believe it for myself.
Absolutely. See what it takes, the dedication, the tenacity. Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. You're right. You're so right. So yeah,
we're getting there. We are almost there. And we are there in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Exactly where we should be, and still an inspiration to so many people around us, whether they be ahead of us or behind us. So
yeah,
we can take, find peace in that too.
My biggest takeaway from just being an entrepreneur is just trust God with everything. Like trust God with everything. Yes. It doesn't even matter what things look like. You're still gonna have to trust God with everything. That's and that holds me down, even though sometimes it gets scary because you're still wondering, because we're so set on the world's perception or perspective or mindset of how things should be done. And it's like, no, God, that's not what God said. That's not your life. Trust God. God's like, just trust me with everything. And that's the hardest part for me now, with everything, because that's a lot. When you say everything,
I know, like with your finances, with your health, with everything. Yeah, it's not easy at all.
Yeah, because sometimes I still think, am I going in the right direction now? Or even those times when you do everything and everything still and nothing happens, it fails. I've watched myself over the years put in a lot of work. And it all fell apart. And I'm like, what in the world, God? What in the world? That just tells me, I always say, okay, when things go like that, I've been like, okay, be still and just watch God. That's it. Just be still and watch God, because maybe he has something totally different that he wants to produce from you. Saying maybe he wants to do a new thing. And maybe that's just isn't it. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't always have to follow someone else's path. We don't always have to take what someone else's word for. Only thing that we need to take heed is what the Holy Spirit is saying to us and where God is leading us. That's it. That is it. That's why I became very selective of the people that I started listening to. After I had all those failed times and then I started saying, okay, no, maybe that's not it, because now I'm wasting my resources on something that's just not for me. What is God saying to you in this season? Yeah.
Yes. You hit it.
Yeah. Well, Kelley, I want to... No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I was just in agreement. I wasn't saying anything else.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm so thankful that we've had this time to catch up, to share, just to talk about our journey. Definitely, I'm always going to be in touch, because I definitely, I'm a big fan of yours. From the very first time that I interviewed you for Sheen magazine, I was always so fascinated with your story, because it was something that I've never met anyone who created a product. Okay, so I know people who created products, right? But it was just the process. I know people that do certain products and stuff like that, but it's always amazing just learning from other people. And it was the process for me. I was so curious about your mindset and okay, I need to learn, how did she get there? Man, this is amazing. She's working with a chemist. How did she know how to do that? How does she know where to go? When I hear a good story, you draw me right on in, you got me. And so that's where I was just so fascinated by your story and just seeing you go after your dreams. And so, so I've always been a fan of yours, cheerleader, cheering on the side, just knowing that you can do it. And when you see that type of stuff, you want people to go further, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm just yes, I want to push forward, because I want to see what else. And I want other people to see it. That's why I wanted you on, because I wanted other people to hear your story and what you were doing or whatever. And just the fact that you're balancing a career in entrepreneurship, an attorney and a mother and a wife, that's a juggle. That's a lot.
It is a juggle. It is a juggle. And I'm just hoping to get it right.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because, some days are easier than others, but I do have a very supportive husband. He is a full-time entrepreneur. And so he gets it. And he always encourages me and really has shown me, this is how you manage your business. It's really no days off. You have to make time for yourself, obviously your family and your other non-business priorities, but you always have to constantly be doing something to move the business forward. And so I'm thankful for his partnership and all the knowledge that he imparts on me too.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I mean, since the first time we met, it's always been a joy and so encouraging to talk to you. So I hope, I look forward to continuing this on, and maybe the next time I'll have something really exciting to say.
Listen, I thought it was exciting enough. The fact that, I think was it last year or the year before when we first talked? And now, listen, you're expanding. Like, look at God enlarging your territory, and who knows what's to come. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no, I was so excited about it. What you've sown into me today was just enough for me to be ready for the next time.
Ready for the next time.
Yes.
This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. The Twindle Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the wealth gap of African Americans and minorities by increasing homeownership. Did you know that 44% of Black families own their home compared to 73% of white families? A barrier to minority homeownership is student loan debt. Through scholarship, the Twindle Foundation is providing minority students with an opportunity to take on less financial debt. To give to the Twindle Foundation, visit www.twindlefoundation.org.